Hey, welcome to you guys, and welcome to the rest of you who are going to be watching this video later this week. My name is Josh. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening and to be your course professor and facilitator for Survey of the Old Testament. And really just want to kind of jump right in tonight and help you out with a few things. Going to work through application assignments to a degree. Application number one, I'll walk you through in detail. Application number two, I'll just kind of give you some There we go. I had some weird feedback from you, Teresa, so I'm just going to mute your audio for now and see what happens here. There we go. And so as far as application number two goes, I'm going to kind of give you some general principles and ideas, guiding thoughts, just to help you do the best on those assignments that you can do each and every week. And then we'll also take a sneak peek at the post-test or the post-week questions that that are each week. You are given multiple choice questions as a part of an exam. And so I'll let you take a sneak peek at those. I won't answer them for you, but at least you get to look at them ahead of time. And then answer any questions that you might have as we move along. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see if I can unmute now. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you. All right. All right, you should be able to see my screen. Now, mute that. There we go. Yep. Teresa, got some funky noise coming from you, so I'm just going to turn that off, the microphone off now. Okay, we're good here. So here we are at week one, and I just posted, I posted a little late, but I finally posted my announcement video for week one, so be sure to check that out if you haven't already done so. I posted it just a couple of hours ago, but that'll catch you up and get you up to speed on what week one is all about, and as well as some of the introductory items that we would normally go through in the course syllabus. All right. But week one, each week is relatively the same: 2 discussion questions, 2 application assignments, along with an evaluation. That's and then a written portion to an evaluation. So essentially there are 6 items that are due each week, except for the last week, which has a few more items due. And I'll talk more about that in about week 3, because I want you to be prepared for that final week, as it's not only do you have your normal discussion and application assignments due, but there's also a final paper and then a final exam on top of your regular weekly exam. So it's just like it all really builds up on that last week. And so I really want to prepare you well for that and get a jump start on week 6 around the 3rd week or so for the course. Like I said, week 1, apply 1, we're just going to kind of jump right in. And if you haven't checked this out already, that is okay. But the format is relatively the same. Now, I need to tell you, I use a MacBook, so your screen may look a little bit different if you're not using a Mac, and that's okay. I also use Google Chrome as my internet browser. So if you're using Firefox, or if you're using Internet Explorer or Safari, I'm not as knowledgeable in those areas or those browsers as I am with Google Chrome. And I typically have experienced fewer problems with teaching online courses by using Google Chrome compared to some of the others. But so that's just my personal preference, but you need to be aware of that, because some things may look just a little bit differently on my screen compared to yours. So here's week one, the application number one. It says click here to download the week's worksheet. And what happens now is a tab on my screen is going to open, and it's going to ask me, or it's going to show a document as a PDF. Okay, and here's something really important, and just pay close attention to. Now on my computer, I have the ability to type in this screen. Okay, and I know for other students that is not the case. You may not have the ability to type into the text boxes that are presented to you on the screen here, but I want to discourage you from doing that. I've learned from teaching this course that too many problems with saving and then re-uploading your completed assignment. There are just too many issues if you don't download this document right away. So what I'm going to do, instead of typing my answers in this web browser screen, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this document. And for me, I'm going to save it in my download file. So there it is. It's downloading, and I can open up this PDF file. Here we go. All right, I'm going to make sure you can see that. All right, so here's the PDF. Here's the PDF file. It's exactly as it appeared in my web browser. And I have the ability on my computer again to type into these text boxes on a PDF. Now, not everybody can do that. So I don't know what you're capable, or your computer is capable of doing. So if you're not able to type into a PDF document, you're going to have to open up a Word document and respond in a work document and upload that document to the appropriate Dropbox for this week's application assignment. Okay, but some do, and I'm able to do that with you right now. And so we're just going to work through these questions. But when you are, after you have downloaded this document and you have responded to the questions, then you want to go ahead and you do want to save it. Always save your work as you go. And then you can find the file wherever you have saved it and upload the document to the appropriate Dropbox for the week. Is that about as clear as mud?
Yep.
Okay. Teresa, are you good? Thumbs up? Okay. Yeah, great. All right, so far so good. I don't know if you've had a chance to dive into chapter 1 yet, but the Epic of Eden is our textbook for this course. Entry into the Christian entry into the Old Testament by Sandra Richter, and this is a fantastic book. We actually do read it cover to cover in this course, and it really gives a good framework for understanding and then being able to explain the overarching story of the Old Testament, as well as then in the final chapter making some more connections to the New Testament. So that's towards the end of the course. But question number 1 is just simply the opening line of chapter 1 of Epic, the book, assumes that the Bible is one overarching story. What does Richter suggest that the story is about? So it's simply just opening up the book to chapter either the introduction or chapter 1, and so what is it what is the overarching story that the author of the textbook suggests that the Old Testament is about? And really it boils down to one word. And so the overarching narrative of the Old Testament centers around the concept of redemption. The author uses this word redemption, which may mean something to you. For others, I know it doesn't. It's sort of a biblical, it's not sort of a, but it's a biblical word. It's a biblical concept that we're going to explore in this course about what it means to be redeemed. A more contemporary translation, you might say, or something you may be more familiar with, is this idea of restoration. And so kind of use those two words synonymously throughout this course, at least I do. Because like I said, I think try to explain the idea of redemption to someone who doesn't know a thing about the Old Testament, they're really going to scratch their head and wonder what you're talking about. But if you talk about restoration, in terms of if you've ever seen a movie, or you watch someone, someone who's restored an old car or a piece of furniture, people have a concept of restoration and what that entails. So the whole narrative, from Genesis to Malachi, the author argues, centers around God's redemption of all of creation and humanity. Okay. What is ethnocentrism? This is simply just looking up a definition. You can find it in the textbook, or you can Google it, or use your online dictionary. But it's just a real simple definition is all that is needed here. So what is ethnocentrism? All right. Question number 3, how does the God of history choose to reveal himself? And then you see in parentheses 23. Here you go. We're going to just kind of flip right up to page 23 in your textbook. And at the bottom paragraph, the author says, as we open the Bible, we find that the God of history has chosen to reveal himself through a specific human culture, right? And then she goes on to elaborate. So that's beginning at the bottom of page 23. Talk about, how does God of history choose to reveal himself? It's just summarize what what you're learning about what the author says about how God reveals himself. Okay. Question number 4. The word redemption finds its root not in theology, but in what human realm? And so this, we're coming back to this word redemption, and in the textbook, in the opening chapter, just after page 23, we're going to page 24 now. Talks about this word redemption, where it's found in the biblical text. What does it mean? Where did it come from? And also page 25. So it's a cultural word. It doesn't find its roots in theology, but it finds its roots in a specific time and place in a culture. And so talk about that. What did it practically mean in ancient Israelite culture to redeem someone or to redeem something? And so that's just right there in the middle of page 25. You'll find out more information about redemption. Okay. All right. Question number 5. The earliest form of Israelite society was distinctly tribal. Okay, so we're talking about tribal communities, tribal people, and in tribal societies. What is the axis of the community? Page 20, see page 25. And, what does this phrase, axis of the community, mean? And so right here on page 25, when we talk about the access of the community mean? What does the community revolve around? What is fundamentally, who is the community centered around? And so we're going to talk about then, in ancient tribal societies like the ancient Israelites, we see that the community is centered around the oldest living male of the family or the tribe. Okay, and so he is the axis of the family. He might be the axis of the tribe, and all of the family life then hinges on the oldest living male providing and protecting the family. Okay, so you're going to read more about then the next question, which is question number 6. What then does patriarchal mean? And what were the patriarch, or what was the responsibility of the oldest living male of the family? So that's the next question. And again, we're still on pages 25 and 26 here. So just define what is patriarchy and what were the patriarch's responsibilities. I mentioned 2 of them already: provision and protection. So what were some of the other responsibilities of the patriarch? All right. What is the Beit Av? It's kind of pronounced bait, like fishing bait, and then Av, A-V. What is pronounced Av? Beit Av. Literally, the Beit Av is the house of the father. Again, we're talking about ancient tribal cultures that are centered around the oldest living male in the family or in the tribe. And so the Beit Av then, pages 26, page 27, 28, 29, we are exploring then the concept of the Beit Av, or the house of the father, the father's house. And so what is that? Describe the father's house and how it functions. So how does the Beit Av function in ancient culture? Okay. So far, so good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question.
Sure, you bet.
I'm for like 7. I just put it down was Hebrew for the patriarch's household.
Yes.
Would that be correct?
Yeah. Essentially, Beit Av is just the patriarch's household. And obviously, the book goes into greater detail. But if it is for our purposes for this worksheet, you just have to tell me what it is. And so, because this is really the worksheet is to reinforce what you've read, and it's just a way for me to know that you've read the chapters for the week.
Okay.
So, yeah, that works just fine for me.
Okay.
Yep. Question number 8 is, what is patrilineal? So we talk about patriarchal. Now we're talking about patrilineal. And here, we're going to read about patrilineal on page 28 and page 29. And this is, again, because this culture is a little bit different. We're talking about a culture that's different from ours. in time and place and space. Patrilineal means that history follows the men, right? So and so was the son of, who was the son of, who was the son of, or begat, and Noah begat, Shem, and then he begat Ham, and then Noah begat, Japheth, and then they each begat their own son. So the lineage follows the male. But then you encounter some interesting genealogies, like Matthew, for example, which is largely patrilineal. In his opening chapter, Matthew records almost all of the names are men, except for about 4. There are 4 key women listed in the genealogy of Jesus, as Matthew records it. So there are times where we see in the scriptures where the writers deviate from the normal pattern and include women, but by and large, patrilineal means just generation to generation, genealogies and histories are recorded through the male side of the family. And so also, what were the privileges? It's important to note here, what were the privileges and the responsibilities then of the firstborn in a patrilineal society? Okay. And all of that is, again, on pages 20, 28 and 29. Also related to this patrilineal society, what happens to women, right? It's not everyone in society is a man, some are women. So what happened when they married and were taken from one father's house and married into another father's house? So how did that work? Just tell me a little bit about how that worked. And then also there's something in the text called the Levirate Law, okay, Levirate, Levirate Law. And so how was Levirate Law designed to protect widows? Let me see if I can kind of direct you a little bit more here. We're pages 30.
Page 31.
And 31. Yep. Even 32. There's a great example on page 32. There's a story that's sandwiched in the middle of the story of Joseph in Genesis about Judah, his brother Judah, and Tamar, right, in Genesis 38. And so here's a great example of how Judah does not follow through on what he's supposed to do as the dominant male in his household by allowing his daughter Tamar to remain in his household. Rather, he sends her back to her father and does not do what he's supposed to do according to the customs of his day, by providing another son as a husband for her. And so then of course she comes up with this dubious plan and dresses herself as a prostitute, right, and seduces him and takes his staff and some other items from him to prove that he was the one, in fact, that she slept with. So the great example of how the Levirate Law was designed to protect widows in ancient culture. Few more questions here. Question number 10, what does patrilocal mean? So we're talking about patriarchal, patrilineal, now we're this word patrilocal. So what does it mean? And here we're on pages 34 and 35 and basically through page 37. Pages 34 through 37. And there's a couple of great images on pages 35 and 36 then of the common 4-room pillared house. You're a construction guy, you're going to enjoy this,
Right.
And So there was a common layout for the home, and so describe then just simply describe the 4-room pillared house, and how is the architecture then? How does the architecture relate to this idea of being a patriarchal, patrilineal, patrilocal society? Patrilocal has to do with the living space of the family unit, which was, of course, as we know, built around the oldest living male. So, so just kind of just elaborate a little bit on how the architecture is significant to this idea. All right, continuing on. Question number 11, how does this renewed understanding of the family compound help us understand what Jesus is talking about in John chapter 14, verses 1 and 2? And then there's a note here, page 39. And so go to, in the text is, the biblical text is in the textbook, John 14, 1 and 2. Jesus is comforting his disciples in this moment, and Jesus says, don't let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house, there it is. In my Beit Av, in my Father's house are many dwelling places. If it were not so, I would have told you. For I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you into myself, that where I am, there you may be also. So once you begin to wrap your idea around the common 4-pillared house and the Father's house, this concept of Beit Av, what sort of connections can you make to what Jesus is saying in John chapter 14, where he goes and talks about preparing a room for his disciples, and where he's going, they can't go. God, and he's saying his Father's house is so big, it has many, many dwelling places. And he's going there to prepare a place for you, for them. So what does that stir up in you? Tell me what connections can you make from that? So just share any insights that you might gain as you explore this concept of the Beit Av. Okay. Question number 12. Here we're getting into pages 40 and through 42. And the question is, what does it mean practically for Boaz to act as Ruth's Goel? Okay, so if you don't know a lot about the Old Testament, and we're really fortunate. A lot of students who come into this course usually have a pretty good and very general background on the Old Testament, and there's not a lot of explanation needed. But this case, we do have some students who don't have a lot of experience in reading the Bible or the scriptures. And so the book of Ruth is where we're kind of focusing on this question. And there's this, in the Old Testament, after Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, and then the book of Ruth. And so there's a man named Boaz and a woman named Ruth. And in the textbook on these pages talk about their relationship as Ruth's Goel. What does Goel mean? It just simply means the kinsman redeemer. And there's that word again, redeemer, redemption. So what does that mean? What is Boaz's responsibility as Ruth's kinsman redeemer? So there's some very practical things that Boaz is expected to follow through on. And so what are those? And then the following page, page 43, is the story about Abraham and Lot. So we're just kind of skipping back. We're going back into Genesis here because really this introductory chapter is talking about in different ways in setting up for us the concept of redemption or restoration. And so the first, a lot of examples that are in sort of a random order, but they are great examples of different ways that we see redemption play itself out in real stories of the Bible. And so on pages 43 and just page 43, I'll just stick with that. 43, Abraham has a nephew. His name is Lot, and Lot gets himself into some trouble. And so how does Abraham redeem his nephew Lot? And you can read about that on page 143. And then on the same page, at the bottom of page 43 and into page 44, Hosea. Hosea is a minor prophet listed towards the end of your Old Testament. And if you're not familiar with Hosea's story, the Lord speaks to Hosea and tells him that he needs to marry this woman named Gomer. And Hosea may think that's great, except there's one problem. Gomer's a prostitute. And so really this prophet lives out, and not only marries Gomer, but has children with Gomer. And of course, she doesn't remain faithful to Hosea. And this is a real life reenactment, according to Hosea, and through God's eyes, what is happening to Hosea and Gomer is how God feels about how his people, as far as his relationship with his children, as father to his children, he feels like his children are prostituting themselves to other gods, that they can't remain faithful to him. And so how does Hosea redeem Gomer? He does some very specific things to redeem her. So what does that look like for Hosea? And then finally, it's just every once in a while we have a question that is just simply fill in the blank or finish this sentence on page 45. And you can find it in there. In Israel's tribal society, redemption was the act of a patriarch who put his own resources, and then you just have to fill in the blank. His own resources, and then tell me what that is. Okay? All right. So let's assume if I'm saving my work as I go, I just want to save it so I don't lose it, and then I can upload it to the appropriate Dropbox for later. And then what I'd like to do is move on to apply number 2. But any questions on apply number 1?
No. No.
All right. Yeah, you bet, Teresa. I can let you ask your question, or you can type it. I'm going to unmute your mic.
Hello?
Yes. Hi.
Hi. With the apply 1, can you quote the book, or do you want it in our own words?
Yes.
Or both?
Whichever you're most comfortable with, because these worksheets are designed to reinforce your understanding of the reading and to show me that you have done the reading. I know where you're getting your answers from. It's a secret, so either way is fine.
Okay.
And since we only have one course textbook, and and in the questions are designed to get you into the book. So it's fine either way with me.
Okay.
Good question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions about that?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
All right. Let's take a moment here, and I'm going to share my screen with you again and take a look at application number 2. Each week, these are the same apply assignments, essentially. The worksheets change based on, the questions change based on the chapters that we're discussing. The format remains the same. And the same is true for apply number 2. The format is the same. The prompting questions are the same. But the Bible passages that you're reflecting on change from week to week. And so here's how apply number 2 works. Each week, in addition to the reading, give you a few short chapters to read in the Old Testament. And you can use your own Bible, or you can use an online Bible, blueletterbible.org or BibleGateway.com, and you look up the reading assignment. And so for week 1, the passages you're to read are Genesis chapter 1 and 2 and 3, the first part of Genesis chapter 4. Here we have in Genesis chapter 6 through 8 and the first part of 9. This is the story of Noah and the flood. Okay. And then, so I guess I'll just pause there for a second. Chapters 1, 2, 3, and then 4 are about creation and the fall. And so we're talking about Adam and Eve. Genesis 6, 7, 8, and 9, we're exploring Noah and the flood. And then finally, the last set of passages comes from Genesis 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. And we're talking about the story of Abraham. Okay. And so we're covering a lot of territory in these passages, but the nice thing about this reflection is you can go into as much depth or as little depth on any of these passages as you would like to go. Okay. And so you just simply open up a new Word document, and this is a journal entry. It's like when you read, I have some prompting questions for you to keep in the back of your mind as you read. What catches your eye as you read? Are you having any light bulb or aha moments as you read? Any, like we'd say, revelation, right? Or what seems good or bad or wrong or right or exciting as you read? Is there anything, or not just anything, but what can you relate to in the story? Is it the situation that a particular character is in? Can you relate to them or that situation in some way? Or maybe you can identify with a particular trait of a character in the passages that you read. And then also the last one, are there any differences that make the story hard to understand? In other words, what questions does this raise for you? As you read the Bible, as you open up the scriptures, it should not only excite you, but it should also create questions and tensions within you, because as we've already started to discuss in this first week discussion questions, Abraham and Sarah weren't able to conceive children, and Sarah says to Abraham, "Hey, take my slave Hagar and have children with her." Well, what's up with that? That should create some tension and some questions and make the story just a little bit more difficult to understand, because that's not something that we typically encounter in our culture today, right? It's frowned upon. It's against the law to have more than one wife. It's against the law to have slaves, for goodness sake. So, what is, what tensions does this create with you? And then do you just write for 200 words or more? And I even provide a sample for you. So the first selection, and it says Genesis, and here the journal entry is just boom, Genesis chapter 1 and 2. Here's my one paragraph about what I read. Here's what I learned from reading about Genesis chapter 1 and 2. And then the next one, for the next section of reading, right? Genesis 3 and 4. Here's my reflection. And then so on, just for each one of these bullet points, right? So for week 1, there's four small reflections, one for each section. And if you have any questions about that, or you want me to look at it ahead of time, I'm happy to do that for you to see if you're on the right track. I have no problem doing that. But again, these are your thoughts as you read. So what are you encountering in the biblical text? And what are the new learnings and insights that you're gaining as you read? So you write that out, just kind of in a journal entry. So you can use the questions that I provide for you as much or as little as you need to. My experience is that some students have no problem free writing journal entries. But on the other hand, some really need the questions to guide their thinking and to help them along. So it's totally up to you and how you want to engage those questions, okay? All right. Any questions then about the journal exercise?
No.
No.
I don't.
Okay, good. All right, the last thing we'll do, and then we'll wrap it up, is just take a sneak peek at the chapter questions. And so I will open that up, and then I'll share that with you. Okay, here we go. You have plenty of time to do this, and each week the number of questions varies. It may be 3 or 4 questions, or it may be 15 or 20. So take your time, and you have plenty of time to do this. So just read each question carefully. I'll read it to you. I'll read you examples, and then you can always go back and watch this video later as I post it as an announcement, and I'll do that later tonight or first thing tomorrow morning, okay? All right, so here we go. Question number, well, there's 6 questions this week. Question number 1, God created evil on which day of creation? The 7th, 3rd, 2nd, 4th, or none of the above?
No.
Question number 2, why did Eve choose to eat the fruit? And note that all sin can be called rebellion against God. Okay, so that the fruit looked tasty. She thought it would make her wise. The tree was pretty. All of the above, or none of the above. You choose the best answer. Question number 3, why did God put a mark on Cain? Okay, so now we're in Genesis chapter 4. Cain and his brother Cain kills Abel. Why does God mark Cain? And so does he do it as punishment, as a reminder, as a decoration, as protection, or none of the above? Okay. Question number 5. The overarching narrative of the Bible is about Jesus, redemption, creation, the 10 Commandments, or none of the above. Now, if this were Sunday school, somebody would raise their hand and they would say Jesus, but that is not the correct answer in this case. So What is the overarching narrative of the Bible? Question. Oh, let me see here. Did I get number 5 already? Okay. Let's see here. Okay.
I don't
I
hear
moved out of
seven.
order. That's okay. Israel's earliest culture would be described as tribal, bureaucratic, technical, matriarchal, or all of the above. Okay. And then don't let this throw you off, but there's only 6 questions. Question number 6, or the final question, is what term is used for tracing ancestral descent through the male line? Patriarchal, patriarch, patrilocal, or patrilineal, or Beit Av. So, okay, there you go. Those are your
6.
questions for this week. And like I said, the video will be posted, so if you need to review those, you can. If you have any questions, I'm here to help you. And don't hesitate to reach out to me through the messaging system, or to email me, or to call me. Information is available to you under Meet Your Professor. All of that information is there for you. Any final questions before we wrap things up tonight?
No, I have none.
Teresa, any questions for you?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, thanks a lot for joining me tonight. And before I sign off and say goodnight, I'm gonna pray for you, and I'm gonna pray for everybody else who's gonna be watching this later this week, and then we'll stop recording and go to bed. It's almost my bedtime. So let me pray for you. Father, thanks for today. Thanks for this week, the start of a new course, a new season in the lives of these students. Just pray that your blessing would be upon them as they engage a new topic over the next 6 weeks. For some, it's going to be familiar territory. For others, it's going to be brand new territory. And I just pray, God, that you would meet each student, each person right where they are, that you would let them know that you are near to them, that you care about them, that you desire to be in relationship with them, and that you want to reveal yourself to them through your word and through the conversations that we have and the discussion threads and through the assignments that they are tasked to do. I just pray that their understanding and that their love for you would grow deep, and that out of that deep love that they have for you and for your word, that this harvest, right? The seed that's been planted in their hearts would grow, and it would just produce a harvest in them that would spill out into the lives of others in amazing ways, God. And so I just pray for them. I pray that you would help them to balance home life and work life and family life and all of the other areas that they have to manage, being students and spouses and a coworker and friends. There's just so much to juggle being an adult college student, God, but you are faithful, and I believe that you are at work in their lives, and that you can see them through this to the very end, and to help guide and lead them through their educational journeys. And so again, thanks God for loving us so much. Thanks for the privilege of being able to study your word, and for being able to see and meet one another and have conversations like this through our computers. I just really, really grateful for you and for how you're at work in my life and for how you're at work in their lives. And so we love you so much, and praise you, and pray these things in the name of your son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Hey, thanks so much. Have a wonderful night and a good week. Get in touch with me if you have anything that comes up. I'm here to help, here to serve you, and to help you through the next 6 weeks as we journey together in our studies in the Old Testament. Okay?
Oh, got it. Fantastic.
Great. Have a great night.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Good night.